got it ready to load up. Got a few things here to send with. These chains are to go on here for the so that your 3-point doesn't settle too far. And got the manual and the PTO, and this little piece of ready rod here goes right there if that ever breaks. Got an extra one here. They do break once in a while, so I think we've broke probably one on each mower, so we have one extra one for each mower on hand, because you're kind of shut down when that breaks. And one other thing that can be easy to miss is when you are going to cut with it, you want to take this pin, you'll hang this this up on these pins, and then you'll want to use this pin on this cable here to put in the hole up here when it actually is, when you put it all the way up, then this hole goes up here. So then that's what stretches that spring out. And otherwise, if you don't put that pin in there, then your trip back mechanism, which is this here, I guess you can't see it very good because of the lighting, but that will trip all the time if you don't have that pin in, because you have too much weight on the cutter bar. And this gearbox does get a little bit of oil around here. I checked the oil in there, so the oil level's good now. But that's just something to keep an eye on, I guess. I guess we just put regular 80/90 in that big gearbox, and then these pods. Each pod, I think it's I don't know what it says in the manual, but it's like a hypoid. It's synthetic oil or something. It's pretty expensive, but I can't remember the number of it. It's like I don't know. I can't remember the number, but it says in the manual. And I think that's all as far as I know. So, oh yeah, one thing about that that gearbox leaking is we actually rebuilt this gearbox one time, and the reason we had to rebuild it is because this bottom gearbox, you check it in that plug there. This bottom gearbox is a separate gearbox from the top, and it gets all full of dirt down here and stuff, and you can't really tell it when it leaks, but it started leaking. I don't remember where, out of somewhere here. It started leaking. It just all of a sudden apparently just kind of dropped the oil, and then it burned up that. I mean, this bottom gearbox pod here went dry, and then we had to take it all apart and rebuild that. Can't remember, that must have made the bearing in the bottom of this gearbox go bad too then. So what we actually did was and there's supposed to be a seal in the bottom of the top gearbox, and we took that seal. We didn't, when we put all the new stuff in it, we didn't put that seal in there, because then it's just common oil from it just goes through that bearing down from the top gearbox down into this bottom gearbox and keeps this bottom gearbox full all the time. Because that is a common weakness with these, is people forget to check the oil in this bottom gearbox and it'll burn out on a guy. So we left that seal out of there. Well, now I just noticed that it's a little bit wet up under this. I don't know if you can see there, but up under this turtle back here. And so I checked the oil in the check plug back here, and it's plump full. So apparently what it's doing, there is seals. This is actually just a blank piece, I think, between the pod gearboxes, and there's not oil in there, but so there's a seal in each end of that gearbox on the shaft that runs through that, or not a gearbox, but a spacer. There's a seal on each end of that spacer, and apparently from the oil being pushing down from this top gearbox down into this one, it has leaked between those two, and filled up this pod full. So there's probably not really necessarily anything wrong with why there's a little bit of oil under this. That's just oil that's gotten pushed over from this, I think. So if you're needing to add oil, that it probably isn't really because it's leaking so much around here. It's probably because it just pushed it into this other pod here. Maybe, I'm not sure or I'm not sure what the deal is, but that's just my theory, because we kind of just thought we would try to see if we could fix the problem of that bottom gearbox going out, and we maybe did fix one problem, but maybe we created another problem. I hope it isn't too much of a problem for you. It hasn't. We've run over a lot of acres with it since then, and I've never had any trouble with it, other than I think we had to add some oil in here when we started this year, and then I added a little bit more now, just topped it off. And then I just saw now after we washed it up that there is some oil residue around down here, so that must be leaking a little bit. So a few things to keep an eye on. Another little thing to keep an eye on is we did break this off one time when it was pretty new, because of mowing in the gopher mounds, and in the wet gopher mounds, and these blades spray mud up on the and it builds up on the bottom of the tarp, and it just gets this tarp so heavy that it that then when you hit gopher mounds, it bounces. When the bar hits a gopher mound and bounces up, it'll put so much strain on this that it'll eventually break that, I suppose. That's what our theory is, that the reason why it broke. I'm actually not even sure where it broke there, but I think it was right back in there. I think it didn't break all the way off. It just started cracking, and then we noticed it. So then we put this flat iron on the top and bottom try to beef that up so it didn't happen again. But we realized afterward that all we need to do is keep the tarp cleaned off, and then I don't think that would ever be a problem. It's only when you're mowing wet, muddy gopher mounds that it sticks to that, really, pretty much. You'll know it when you quit for the day and you flip that tarp over, because you can hardly lift it because it's so full of mud under there. So hopefully that's a good mower for you. It was a good mower for us, I guess, until we just kind of grew out of it. Is what the reasoning for us selling it, I guess. So have fun.